Oh, hi folks. Hope you're well. Um, I recently I've been watching some old series of Dragon's Den, and for those who know what Dragon's Den is, well done. But for those of you don't out there, Dragon's Den is a show on TV, and I wasn't watching it live. It was on YouTube, where you get four multimillionaires or five I think, lined up in this chair with their money stacked aside them, the fake banknotes. Don't think it's real. Doesn't matter anyway. You got people like Theo Paphitis and Peter Jones, that horrible, yucky female, Deborah Meaden. The only one out of the dragons that ever appears on Dragon's Den who hasn't made her money from scratch. Zip nada. No, Deborah Meaden. What a horrible female. Sorry, but that's my personal view. Um, she's married to some guy who's such a wet. Yes, dear. No, dear. Three bags full, dear. And you think, well, yeah, that about sums him up. Um, but anyway, the five dragons, they have these little entrepreneurs coming in saying, I've got a great idea, it's this, it does this, it is this, and that. And then they talk about their projected income potential from the sales, whatever they're going to do with it. And then they get an offer of investment from one or more of the dragons, if the dragons think it's a worthwhile investment, putting their families, I don't know, cash into it, or the kids' inheritance, as Theo Paphitis puts it. Another strange individual. But one of the individuals that used to star in the show was a guy called Douglas Richards, or Doug Richards. And you might recall him. He was the American guy who made his fortune buying and selling IT companies and computer programming companies, software firms. And the whole series lasted really, well, still going, I think, don't watch telly anymore. But for 2 years on the trot, Doug Richards was in series after series after series. Not once did that slimeball invest in any other business. He was so patronising, so holier than thou, so precious. And you take an instant dislike to the slimeball, well, I did. Because he gave no quarter, did he? He ripped candidates and potential young people apart. Belittling them, making snide comments, your figures are off. He was so, I'll just do the maths and make you look an idiot. And yes, I've made you look an idiot in front of millions of people. Aren't I the great Doug Richards? Well, here's the wake-up call. You talk about heaven sent. Oh yeah, baby. Doug Richards was arrested halfway through the second series, I think it was, for alleged paedophilia. There we are. Yeah, and this is a guy who mixes with the Queen. He advised Osborne and Cameron on financial issues because he's supposedly a whiz kid on the scene. Doug Richards, yes, the Yank with the glasses. The pompous Pratt always was Hermes ties, £150 a pop ties. And yes, the big Doug Richards. But all the time, Dougie, baby, is playing away with underage children. And he goes to court, this arsehole, and he gets prosecuted for having underage sex, quite frankly. That's what it amounts to. But he was heavily into the punishment and the crime. He wanted the domination stuff. He wanted to smack the woman's bottom and then, dominate. He didn't want to dominatrix. He wanted to dominate. More like 50 Shades of Grey gone wrong. But, anyway, the Schadenfreude moment for me was, yes, it couldn't happen. It just shows you, doesn't it, these prats put on this big facade of I'm the big successful businessman, and all the time the little pervy inside him, every day he logged on and he was actually tracked and got prosecuted. And, you know, you only have to Google his name, Doug Richards, to see exactly what the real true story is. Don't take my word for it, but look at back issues of videos of Dragon's Den Doug Richards, and you can see how pompous this arsehole is. It just shows you, doesn't it? You know, the double lives, the Walter Mitties that are out there that are, you know, want us to get one impression, but behind the scenes they're not really like that. Jekyll and Hyde, really. But I'm unforgiving when it comes to paedophilia and sexual perverts on young girls. And he is no exception. So all his piety and skills mean nothing. And the guy is now a financial ruin. Nobody wants to deal with his companies. Nobody wants to deal with him. Talk about blotch your copy, but I don't think it could happen to a nicer person. Or more deserving person, I should say. Because he shot a lot of entrepreneurs' ideas down in flames and destroyed their lives, and without him even investing. He was so super critical, this bastard. So I dislike the man, you might tell. But I dislike him even more because he's put the cherry on the cake. But good old British press, they got him banged to rights. And he didn't get imprisoned, sadly. He got a little fine, you know, because he's friends with the Queenie. Just shows you, see, Jimmy Savile can get away with it as well. But there's no record of Doug Richards murdering anybody or sodomising them. Well, that's open to debate. He's not going to confess that in court, is he? Nobody's going to come out and say they were a victim either. But it's just an example of what strange things human beings are or try to portray themselves as, isn't it? Because we've all, I've said before, got this mask. Oh, by the way, do you like the T-shirt? I've got a Shih Tzu. My wife has 4 Cavalier King Charles. I've got a Shih Tzu. I Shih Tzu not. There we are. She did that T-shirt for me. Isn't that lovely? Yes. They have attitude, do Shih Tzus. They used to guard the imperial palaces in China, I believe, because they're so yappy. That's very true, but they're great fun. They love fighting. I like duffing my Shih Tzu up, and she likes jumping all over me. We have great fun, her and I. Anyway, on to the topic. At last. Well, where to start? Amongst the Dragon's Den series, I was fascinated by the ability for the humans that are coming to make their pitch, about the ingenuity of some people. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's breathtaking, what people will think that they can make or design, which is fabulous on many occasions. They didn't get investment where I would have invested, quite frankly. And I thought, wow, to think of something like that's quite amazing, you know. Some great designers out there. Young, spirited designers, that's what we need. We need more inventors. And I think that's fantastic, you know, but then they put a value on the marketplace value of their product and what the potential earning is of this fantastic product. And, oh, of course, they've overinflated it. The dragons want it on pennies for the pound, for Christ's sake. They want to make a profit. You know, I personally would never, ever, ever do anything. If I invented anything, I wouldn't go to Dragon's Den. It would be the last chance saloon if I had to do that, and I don't think I would. I'd rather let it fail than go on to Dragon's Den, honestly. I'm not interested. I've invented a couple of things which I use myself, thanks. Yes. Quite happily, and people say, oh, you should market this, and I say, no thanks. I just want the luxury of being the only one in the world that's got it. It's true. And I'm not prepared to share it for any percentage or money or prostitute myself like that. It's my idea, I'm bloody keeping it. But you'll find with humans that the ideas, the inventing side of us comes from our left hemisphere of our brain. Okay, that's where we get our things. This is where we are in daydream land, and we're channeling man. We are. If we only learn to shut up the right side of our brain for now and stop its insane constant chatter. And this is where it's important to daydream. Oh yes, it's important to daydream. I'm a big believer in I'm a daydream believer, me. I often go off to Walter Mitty land in my fantasy world, and I get nudged because I get so entranced in it. Entranced being the right word. But yeah, amazing inventions. And those people, I hear people saying, oh, I could never invent anything like that. I'm useless, I am, yada, 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 self-deprecating all the time. And, you get tired of this negativity. But then I look out the window and think, well, who is the greatest inventor of them all? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is the greatest inventor? Well, take a look around. You think about the greatest inventors. Who would you think? I can see it now. You're coming out with this greatest inventor. Well, the man who invented this, or the woman who invented that. Let's just stop a second. Let's just take a peek out the window, open the window or open the door and take a look outside. Now tell me who the greatest inventor is. Okay. Let's take a look at the chameleon, shall we? Yes, this wonderful lizard. It has the ability to change its skin colour to match the environment, so it creates its own camouflage. A fabulous little design, don't you think? And they come from a centimetre big all the way to some big ones. Various model types, you see. The other way is they've got fantastic hands because they don't have fingers. They have primarily a thumb and a clasp. That's it. Like a crab. Chameleons walk around like this. And they've got a curly tail. Well, that's great because their environment is going to be in a tree or in the bushes, isn't it? And they can change colour. If it's a green bush or a dark red bush or brown bush, they can total camouflage. But it's a bit spiky things here, and they are open to be open to predation. That means someone's going to come along and eat them if they get seen. So they've got the camouflage, but what about the armour? Oh yeah, they've got good skin. It's pretty tough wearing, but the eyes are very delicate. But here's the thing, they can move their eyes in different directions. And they peer out what appears to be a little pinprick in a complete sky. Talk about Chinese, but they're not. And a chameleon, they're little holes, not really eyes, but behind the eyelids, of course, there are eyes. But they can move them in, they'll look that way and that way. You think, is that a stroke? And they move them around. And they're really wonderful little creatures. I had two pet chameleons. And anyway, I won't go into what's happened to them. My daughter accidentally killed them, quite frankly. No, I've only just got over forgiving her. She was young at the time. I left her to babysit them. Anyway, she was too young to be left in charge of them, I since learnt. So we've got these chameleons, but what about this? Sometimes you see the insects, they're a bit shifty. Now chameleons move very slowly. So most things can outrun them and outfly them. They don't fly. So they have to have some way of catching the little bugs really quickly. What do? They have an extendable tongue. It's quite amazing. A bat. And their enormously long tongue has got a sticky end. And it goes dunk on the insect and pulls the insect, whoa, straight into their mouths. Nom, nom, nom. Lovely. So they can shoot this tongue. And it comes recoiling back with the food on. Great. Yeah. So you think, who sat down and designed that? Now, they need a Design Council Award, as far as I'm concerned, for the most fascinating, survival-orientated design. But hang fire. There's lots to choose from out there. Yeah. Lots of them to choose from. In the reptile world, who would have guessed it? Snake, pretty impressive, aren't they, really? Lower than a snake's belly. Oh yes, snakes. Come in all forms, shapes and sizes and length. Some are poisonous. Some are, well, they're reptiles, so they don't really have emotion, apparently. They lay eggs, whereas chameleons give live birth. You don't get chameleon eggs. So there are differences even in the reptile world. But who decided that the snakes will lay eggs? And now is that the same designer? The same designer would have designed the chameleon or the snakes then? Or you do the cold-blooded stuff, I'll do. No, it doesn't work like that. But let's move away from animals for a moment. Let's just look at the trees. Yeah, the trees. Okay, somebody's got to design a tree. Come on in, you design everything else. Come and design us a tree. See if we can get it on Dragon's Den. Yeah, there we are. It's an acorn. Yeah, well, I can see Theopophysis scratching his ugly little specky head. Well, it's an acorn. Well, what's that do then? Who designed that then? What's it worth then? I'm going to spend my kids' inheritance money on a bloody acorn. You designed the acorn. What does it do? Well, Theo, I'll tell you, if you've got 80 years to watch it. I'm going to plant it. And out of this crappy little green thing I've just shown you, Theo, I'm going to put it in the mud and I'm going to water it. I'm going to put it out there in the sunshine and let the magic sunlight do its work. And the great thing about this, Theo, is it doesn't need feeding. It gets water, but it makes its energy out of sunlight. And it grows. And it gets taller and taller and taller. And then it's beautiful to look at. Children can play on it. There we are, big oak tree. Yeah. It keeps a lot of animals alive. Squirrels eat acorns and other things eat acorns. When the acorns fall to the ground, Theo, they can hang around for ages. So it's self-replicating. It can put hundreds and hundreds of acorns in its, there we are. It can produce itself, reproduce itself. But when it dies, Theo, or even if man wants to cut it down and kill it, they can make fabulous wood. They can make fabulous wood and furniture. So it's multi-purpose, really. You see, but it doesn't need us. It's grown up from the moment it's an acorn. All that information is in the acorn. It's like seeds. Everything it needs is in the kit, isn't it? And when you break an acorn up or a seed up and you look, you think it's just two halves of a very tasteless nut. You have tasted an acorn. It's not very nice. Squirrels like them. Lots of animals like them. Pigs love them. Horses like them. So I've been told. And you think, well, where are you, acorn? But you've got to have a bit of faith, haven't you? You've got to have faith to know. When you plant an acorn, I can guarantee, you're going to get an oak tree. Yes, it's guaranteed, folks. It's 100% guaranteed. You plant an acorn, you'll get an oak tree. You just got to be patient and look after it. Make sure no bastard cuts it down. You see, it's a complete kit. And it don't need you. It just needs a hole in the ground and to be covered up, and it'll do the rest. There you go, Theo. How much are you going to invest in my acorn? How much is that acorn worth? Well, as an acorn, nothing practically I get. But what about a big oak tree? What about the wood that acorn will make, the oak? How much is the oak worth when you cut the acorn down and turn it into planks? Oh, quite a fortune. So what's changed? It's gone from an acorn to a tree to a huge tree, and they cut it up. It's still part of an acorn, isn't it? It's grown and developed. That's just an acorn I'm talking about. But what about the more magnificent things then that nature designed? Well, folks, I could go on all night about picking out topics, in nature. And we think we're the great designers. We have this arrogance to think, oh yes, I designed that. Well, it don't impress me much. Because nothing will compare to what's out there. It's been here all the time. We're killing it off all the time, of course. What value do you put on this then? Tell me that. You would think that grass, oh yes, lovely field, beautiful football field, full of grass. But if I just stuck one grass seed in the grass, in the mud, and it came up, one little leaf of grass, blade of grass they call it, don't they, a blade, and I put it in a box, and I go to a football club manager and say, look at it, governor, see what that is? That's this stuff called grass, that is. That's just, well, yeah, big deal. Big deal. But what are your football players going to play on then, if you haven't got grass? Don't be stupid. Of course my lads need a pitch. Well, yeah, but all a field of grass is millions and millions of them, isn't it? And it's an amazing thing, grass. It grows terribly quickly in the summer and it doesn't grow at all much in the winter, but it's very durable. It'll do the job. It'll take a lot of abuse, governor. What is it worth? It's worth a lot to people who play football and sports on grass, isn't it? And aeroplanes when they land on grass and other things. And it produces enormous amounts of oxygen, and it eats an enormous amount of carbon dioxide. Does the grass. England, my green England pastures, the valleys of Wales, contribute massively to the oxygen that's available to us to breathe. And yet we so dismiss it as merely a blade of grass. And it's strange when you look at life like that, because as we go through life, we start to self-deprecate. We beat ourselves up. Our husbands and wives, or people who don't like us, or some family members criticize one another. You're a mountain, you are nothing, you aren't. And we then get what they call a big attack on our self-esteem, what we believe ourselves to be. And I'm useless, and you get this personality defect, don't you, that you're not worth anything. And we beat ourselves up. But I do question this argument about humans are the greatest, most advanced species on the world. Well, I don't think so. We're certainly the ones with most ability to be cognitive and solve problems. We're great problem solvers, but equally we're great problem makers. You know? But I don't see many animals having a tough time getting through their life with unsolvable problems, because most of our problems are caused by other people and politicians, banksters, lawyers, and you name it. The only problems we have is when letters of intent to prosecutors pop through our letterbox. We have relationship problems. We don't have worldly problems, not really, because there's enough food source out there. We've got the air. We've got the protection because we're savvy enough to make protection, and we can make warm and we can make cold if necessary. It's people are the biggest danger to us. People. People are the biggest killers of people in the world. So we don't have enemies. We do. We have masses of enemies. We just don't see them. We don't see them coming half the time. Physical enemies. No, we truly don't. We have lots of enemies like bacteria and viruses and things and fungi. But then we start to, look at value. We don't value ourselves very much. If you wanted to put a value on you, how would you do it? I've said this in a video before. I'm not sure. I think it might got deleted. If you think you're worthless, don't think you're worthless. You are hard to put a price on, quite frankly, because there's not enough money in the world to buy you. And yet your government, when they register you, or you register, or your parents sell you out and sell your soul sell you, okay, on a birth certificate. A birth certificate, like that's it, you're in the dock, birth, fish, boats. Yes. Why is it called given birth? Given passage. And then we're in the dock. Yes, Your Honour, we're in the dock. Sounds like Robert Maxwell. Well, what are you worth? I'm bankrupt, I am. No, none of us, not one of us are bankrupt. It's a social system that decides we're bankrupt, but that's just crap. Because you're richer than anything. You are worth, well, I can't put a value on you, quite frankly. But the government with our birth certificates think that we're, on average, in our working lifespan, worth £2 million. It could be 20 million. I might have misread it on a drunken night, but I don't drink. So let's say 2 million. Just arbitrary figure. Let's just pick that figure out of the hat. There is a figure to it, but what you will earn for the government in taxes over your lifetime. That's how they calculate your net worth. Anything else they're not interested in, because that's all we are to them, little taxpayer units. That's the idea of a birth certificate, to allow the rich banksters, Illuminati, you name it, shysters, to keep a track. If they know they have a working 60 million population in the UK, it's a bit conservative, and every one of those individuals in their life will earn X amount through their life, and we have an employment rate of X amount, we can work out what we can expect as a cash flow forecast for the next 25 years. Because they've got the birth certificates to prove it, because they know whether you're going to be working or not. A high percentage of those people will be working. So there is a formula they use to work out what they expect to get out of the working age population for the next 30, 40, 50 years. They've done these forecasts. But that's all you're worth to them. But how much are you worth to you? Because we do treat ourselves so badly sometimes. We smoke. We use VAPs. We abuse ourselves in so many ways, I can't even go into it. You can use your imagination. And you think you're worthless because your husband or wife or your kids say you're worthless, or your colleagues say you're worthless, and you get this low self-esteem, as I said before. But who thinks you're worthless? You or others? Well, they say it so often you start to believe it. That's the problem. And some people do. They get totally programmed into thinking their self-worth is nothing. Well, let's look at this then. I need a pair of eyes, and you can see, and you think you're worthless. How much do you want for your eyes? Let me have them, and I'll give you anything you want for your eyes. Name your figure. The end result will be is that you'll be blind, though, for the rest of your life. So how much do you want for your eyes? Well, don't be silly. Come on, it won't hurt. I can get them out and stitch you up, and then you'll be okay, but you'll be better off. So how much do you want for your eyes? I could use a good pair. Come on, I'll give you 1 million, 2 million for your eyes. You won't, will you? Unless you're absolutely stupid. Okay, I'll do you a deal then. Give me a package deal. Yeah, I want your kidney. I want both of your kidneys. How about that? And you'll end up on a machine every day until you find a donor. I want both of your kidneys, and I want your eyes. How much are you going to charge me? You're not having my bloody kidneys, and you're certainly not having my eyes. You see? You see your value coming up and up and up? How much do you charge me for your liver then? Come on, you're getting... George Best got 2 freebies and he still managed to drink himself to death. How much do you want for your liver? I want a nice, young, virile liver like yours. Plenty of life left in it. I want it, man, because mine's a bit dodgy. How much do you want for your liver? Come on, come on. You won't sell me your liver? I know you need it. You don't know, really. Okay, half a liver then. Because if you cut a liver in half, it'll grow itself back to normal. Do you know that? It's a self-replicating thing, is the liver. It's so important to a body. Yes. You won't sell me your liver, okay. But I can't hazard a guess how much you're worth because you're priceless. And yet we treat ourselves with such contempt, don't we? You know, we abuse ourselves in so many ways, and yet look what it's done. It repairs itself most of the time. It does its best to look after us, because us is two, isn't it? Us. Me, myself, and I. I is the one you speak to when you're not speaking to anyone. This is what's going on between your left and right lobe. It's our Creator's way, whoever that may be, of making sure that the Creator's children, that's us, are not lonely. We've always got someone to speak to, and they're in here. And that's the best friend you've got in this world, folks. The one in here. The one that speaks constantly to you. It's never going to let you down. In fact, it's the one that doesn't volunteer and initiate thoughts. That's the one that lets the other down, because the other one's a silent partner. You bounce ideas off it, and maybe it doesn't speak that loudly. But if you listen, it'll speak to you in a different way. It doesn't use language to speak back to you. It doesn't. It creates situations in your life. What do I mean by that? Have you ever thought about something for a long time? You've perhaps been really, really, really wanting it. You spoke to yourself, oh, I'd love one. Oh, if only. I've got the money for it. I'd love one, but I simply can't afford one. And yada, 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 yada. Somebody's listening. And I can guarantee it's the other half of your brain. There's no escape. It's got to listen to you. It might not respond, but it's got to listen. But it wants you to be happy. It wants you to have what you want. But be careful what you think about all of the time and want all the time, because you might just get it. Who do you think you got to thank to getting it? Who will change circumstances in your life? Maybe not quickly, but eventually. You think, 10 years down the line, you say to somebody, bloody hell, I've wanted one of these for years, and I'd never thought I'd find one. When I did have one before, I lost it, I was so upset. But now I've got another. That's called serendipity, isn't it? Synchronism it's called, actually. It's called synchronism. That's synchronized. That event of you finding that has been worked upon for a long time by your other half. We've all got another half. The subconscious. That's the left side of our brain. The problem is we don't know what it does. What does it do in there? Well, it runs your body for a start. It makes your heart tick. It keeps your digestion going. It controls your body. There's so many autonomic nervous system things going on. It can't be entrusted to you because you're too busy worrying about Ujima flips and the pay rise you're not going to get and the bills you've got to pay and everyday mundane tasks and yada, yada, yada. But silence is golden for the left-hand side of the brain. But nobody, I mean, there is research going on now, but there's far more to the left-hand side of the brain subconscious than is given credit for. We just don't know. What causes synchronism? Or serendipity? Serendipity is just really good luck. Synchronism is when all things, in all the places, in all the world, and it happened to me and that's what I wanted. I've given up wanting it. No, but you... left brain has been working on synchronizing events. Ask and you shall receive. Oh my God, a never truer word spoken. And if you live by the sword, believe me, you will die by it. You'll badmouth people so much in your day and get away with it, but one day, just one day, it'll catch up with you. Might not be today or tomorrow, but it will get you in the end, my friend. And this is what we have a great problem with trying to figure out. We are up there at the top of the evolution, it seems, because our ability, we can think things into existence. And it's very true, but it's not us. Not really. It's our left-hand brain thinks it knows what we want because we thought we knew what we want. And this is why you have to be very specific in knowing what you want and be very careful. And don't wish ill on other people. That's just negativity. Never wish other people ill. It's not good karma. It just like putting a drop of black ink in a pure water bucket. It ruins the whole thing. Keep your thoughts. If you can't be nice to people by saying nice things about people, don't say anything. And silence is truly golden. You've got to get rid of this crap in your life, you see, the negativity. God knows we've got enough reasons to be negative, of course, and they want to keep us in that dumb state because it's a negative atmosphere. But animals don't talk about one another. Plants and lizards, they don't chat and backstab and be nasty, and yet we think they're retarded. It's us who are the advanced species. Are you having a laugh? It's not. We're the retarded ones. We have got to learn, unlike the animals out there, that there is no merit or mileage or currency in trying to make yourself look good at the expense of other people, belittling other people, because we're all fabulously unique, whether some of us appreciate it or not. You've got to appreciate you, because what shines out the outside of you is often generated from within, and a lot of ugly people out there. They've got stinking thinking, and you can tell. Nothing good ever happens to them. Because in order to get good, you've got to give good. Give and you will receive. And I'm not religious. It's just common sense, isn't it? Think positive things, and positive things happen. Think negative things, and negative things. Well, what's causing that? The ether, that allegedly doesn't exist but really does. So of course it's the ether. I've held a human brain in my hands, and I've looked at it, this gelatinous mass, and you think, I've got somebody's brain in my hand. That's a strange thing to think, isn't it? You know, and that's everything in their life. Every thought they've ever had in their head has gone through that, and their memory's all in there. Well, nobody really knows how memory works, but I'm more than convinced than ever that our memory isn't stored in here. I really don't think it is. I think our memories for all of us are stored outside of our heads, whether it be within the ether. Because if our memories were stored in here, we should, most of us, be able to do instant recall, because it'll be eminently available. And yet we forget so much. Because there's an enormous amount of potential, but we only store, allegedly, around about 12% of all our knowledge. Everything we've ever learned, it just takes about maximum, the most impressive people only utilize about 12% of their brain. God knows what the rest of us do. Less. You know. The brain is one of those great unknowns even now. And it's not that important, you know. It truly isn't. There are some people who've got genetic defects that their brain is the size of a small crab apple or a small plum, and the rest of their head is hollow. And they've had x-rays and think, Christ, how is this person alive? And you wouldn't know their brain is that big because their head looks perfectly normal. Nobody suspected they had a mini brain until they were poorly one day with some other alternate disease, and they x-rayed their heads and said, your brain's missing, my old son. You're kidding, aren't you? No, look, here's your x-ray. Talk about Homer Simpson's head. And there's a little P at the bottom. That was his brain, about the size of a plum. And this guy was a master of mathematics. And yet his brain was the size of a plum. And his head was, if you shook his head, he would dong, 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 you'd rattle his brain around. But it was like a little tumour growth. And his skull was empty. It resonated. And rung like a bell. Dong! Very true. So tell me, there's now to strangers folk, is there? Now to stranger nature. You cannot put a price tag on it, can you? So don't depreciate yourself. Don't let others take the piss and devalue you. And stop believing their negativity. Stay away from negative people who devalue you. Because the whole idea of you getting through this life, as though it's something to get through. What a penance. And life should never be a struggle. It's made a struggle quite deliberately because they don't want you to enjoy it. It's got to be laborious, labour intensive, and then when you finish doing your labour, drop dead and get out of the way. That's what it is, isn't it? How sad. But you mustn't devalue yourself. Even the smallest little insect has a reason to live. And so does the biggest creatures on the world, the blue whales. And yet, we slaughter them. The Chinese bloody whales and dolphins. Just to satiate their goofy little faces so they can get to the next meal. There's so many other things to slaughter, isn't there? Shysters. Got no respect for these people. Because they don't have respect for anything else apart from themselves. How can you possibly have self-respect until you can respect other things? Consumerism, another one. As I grow older, I become minimalistic. I can tell you, I've given away enough, probably, to fill 4 houses. Easily. I wish, in hindsight, that I'd kept all my childhood toys just for posterity, just to remind myself of the fun I had with them. But I gave them away to children and charity shops and others less fortunate because I'd had my way with them. They were no further any use for me. I would pass them on so they maintain their value. And hopefully the recipient would take as much care of them as I did. I would never know. But I know each time I brought happiness to another child's life. And I've done it with adult things as well. Because I get no kick out of it anymore, of owning anything. I don't... If my wife and I, heaven forbid, were to ever divorce, I just take my personal stuff and take a walk. I'd start again. I really would. She could have it all. And I'd start afresh. With no hard feelings. Because that's life. We all change. You're not the person now you were when you married your husband or wife. 25, 30 years ago. You are entirely different. And sometimes, if you're lucky, like my wife and I, we grew parallel. We didn't do that. But life does that to us. Oh, what's the next big thing? I want to... No, the trick is, folks, love the one you're with so much there's no room for anyone else. And know that you both have the same goal. Okay? Where do you find your contentment? A thing is static and doesn't move when it is in equilibrium. Try saying that when you're drunk. Equilibrium. It doesn't move because there's no force upon it, so it stays still. And you've got to keep your mind still. You've got to shut it up and give the left half a chance to speak. But it doesn't speak, it shows. And it's up to your right conscious mind to take note. But we walk right on by and it's done its bit and it's right in front of you. There it is. And you've passed on by because you never took time to stop and smell the roses. Or didn't lie down in the buttercups, did you? Have you ever laid in the grass and watched a bumblebee land on a buttercup? And wondered at the fascination of that busy little bee. How does it fly? That's living. Seize the day. Carpe diem, as they say. It's Latin for seize the day. Seize, never mind, seize the bloody day. Seize the minute. Seize the 10 minutes. Seize the half hour or hour. Because tomorrow is not promised to you. The next minute isn't promised to you. But it's been given to you to make the best use of. And the one thing that is quite abhorrent in our society is people waste time. There are plenty of people out there who can't see, would like to look out the window that you're next to right now and look at the landscape maybe, or see. And they perhaps never experienced sight. Yet you take it for granted every day. And we have the temerity to moan about our lot in life when we can see in magical 3D and... Don't you just hate moaners who are fully functional? And some of the happiest people I know are terribly disabled. Well, what do you want them to do? Sit there mumbling in a little gang in the corner? Pity party? We've all got our crosses to bear. But half of our crosses are self-imposed. We self-impose ourselves with limitations that we just need to have the confidence to break out. And in those great words of the Shawshank Redemption, get busy living or get busy dying. If you want to get busy dying, don't hang around, man. You're wasting time. You could be on to the next version. Well, I'd rather you carry on getting better at living and get busy doing it. And if you're content with your life, try and spend time making someone else more content and happy to be living themselves. There's no greater joy in life than giving, and it's better to give than receive. Trust me. That's why I practically have nothing left of any value in my life apart from my family. Bricks and mortar, forget it. Can't take it with me. That's why you've got to look after yourself. Look after others. And everything has a value, folks. Everything has a value. And you are priceless. You can take yourself to the Antiques Roadshow and see what bullshit they come out with there. If you turn up with nothing in your pocket and sit there and say, what are you going to place a value on me then? And see what the experts say. You know the experts. Definition of an expert? An X is a has-been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. Well, doesn't that practically sum up most people you know? Catch you tomorrow. I shit you not.